Welcome to the Make Money Podcast, everyone. I'm your co-host, Steven Corson, with...
your other co-host, Marlon Martinez.
I know.
Welcome back.
He got his panties all up in a bunch last time because I said his name for him, and he's like, you're taking over.
I don't get much in this world. I at least want to be able to say my own name.
God knows your wife doesn't.
But yours does.
Hey, there you go. All right. Hopefully they don't hear this. We'll be in trouble. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, they only use each other's names or our names or however it works when they're pointing out the flaws in the other.
Yeah,
one.
it's very much like reverting back to our mothers at this point. It's
correct.
It's like getting the middle name thing. If I don't get Babe or Sweetie or something like that, and I get Steven, it's like best case scenario is that something's wrong with the kids, or I did something 2 weeks ago that now I'm going to pay for.
Yeah, and usually what I get is, oh God, but not in a good way. It's more of oh God, Marlon, again? Seriously? Can't you take anything? No, take your life seriously. Why not? No.
I know.
Life's too short to be taken too seriously. That's my motto.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah, especially with stuff going on down right now.
That's it. If it feels like we're stalling, it is. Because what do we have? This is what we have on the agenda today. We have a recession to talk about. We have a bear market to talk about.
Again.
We have Celsius, another crypto platform going down.
Correct.
Again. So, I mean, it just feels like a whole bunch of the same, and it is a lot more of the same, but it's just more of the same but worse.
I feel like I'm back in Back to the Future, when Marty lands in the past and he sees a rerun, or he sees the show for the first time. He's like, oh wait, I've seen this one.
Oh yeah, and they're like, it just came out.
It's like, oh wait, no, well,
yeah. Or I mean, very much Groundhog Day. So
oh yeah, that's another good one. Yeah.
Because
Classic.
of that, we are actually going to shake things up on you a little bit. All right, so we were talking about it, and last week we kind of got into talking about reskilling and upskilling some. And we've actually been having conversations with people about that
daily this week. Yes.
And I think it's something that we need to spend a little bit more time on, because when it comes to making money, the best way to do it is to increase your income. Whether that's a primary or secondary source of income, because guess what? In order to, you know the old adage, right? In order to make money, you got to have money.
Correct.
Or you gotta have money to make money. I said it backwards.
One of the key things, especially with all the negativity going on right now, the one way to ensure you're making more money is increasing cash flow.
Yep.
You want to make sure you have more either income or less cash going out. So ultimately you have more cash on hand so that you could utilize it, have resources, spend it wisely, or invest it.
Think like a business. When a business is in trouble, they don't go, how could we invest the money we have in order to make more money? Hopefully the business is already doing that. But what they do is they say,
they get bailed out by the government.
Well, that happens.
Oh, sorry,
as
that's
well.
really, really big businesses. My bad. Yeah.
But they also come in and they say, okay, how could we find new sources of revenue? And that's how we need to be thinking. So let's jump into this first, and then we'll get into the market updates. And let's talk very specifically about reskilling. And Marlon, just because I've been butchering it, would you mind defining reskilling and upskilling? And we'll do upskilling on a different episode, but we're doing reskilling today.
Yeah. So we started talking about this last week with upskilling, reskilling as different options. The big distinction here is upskilling is where you are looking at your current skill set, your current resources, and improving upon them so that you could either get a raise or provide more value in your current job, business, whatever you're doing. Reskilling, the big difference is here you're learning something new. You're developing a new skill, something that you haven't tapped into before. Maybe before it was a weakness of yours, and now you're strengthening it so that you can make yourself more marketable. Again, for either another company or for another business. So whether you want to stay working where you're working and you're happy with that and you're great, but you want to start learning something new so you could do it on the side, or maybe move into a different industry altogether, now you're reskilling. So it opens up the venue of possibilities drastically.
Exactly. So diving into that a little bit, one thing that we try to encourage people, because a lot of times when people are thinking about reskilling, they're thinking too big in the beginning. They're going, I'm making $50,000 a year. I'm going to need to reskill and work a second full-time job in order to make another $50,000. We're not talking necessarily about reskilling as a way to replace your primary job.
Correct.
But guess what? A lot of people actually end up doing that.
Yes. I mean,
and that's in it, but that doesn't need to be the goal. It can be, but it doesn't have to.
Crucial and critical.
There's an R there.
I know. A crucial thing to I can't even say it. A crucial thing or a crucial aspect about that. You're hitting it on the head. Is people are afraid to start because they think I need to completely replace my income. If I'm making 50 grand right now, like you said, I need to. This new skill needs to completely replace it. It's like no. Think of it as supplemental. Think of it as something small that adds on to your current skill set. Now, in an ideal world, that could eventually become its own thing. It could.
Yeah, for many people, it does. But at the same time, it doesn't have to. So
absolutely. Start small.
So think about it like this. Pick out 3 of your smallest bills that you get every single month. And, okay, so maybe a little bit bigger. If you're like $8.99 for Spotify, but think of like, what could you do if you just paid off your utility bill? Okay, that's a couple $100 every month probably. And it's one of those things to where it's like, if you just had an extra $250, $300, $500 a month, what could you do with that? What would that enable you to do? Do you have a credit card bill that you're behind and it would speed up just paying off that credit card bill faster?
Which, by the way, is one of the huge things you could be doing in a recession.
Absolutely. We talked about this. Like, get rid of that debt in order to free up cash flow. So if you start thinking about it in terms of that, of, hey, you know what? I've got this $5,000 credit card. I just need to hurry up and get rid of that. I'm only paying an extra $100 a month on it. It's going to take me a while. Okay, what if you could put an extra $500 a month to that and get that thing done in a few months?
Absolutely. Especially if you're doing just minimum payments or, you have no strategy in place. An extra $50 a month makes a big difference. An extra $500, huge.
We live in the greatest time in the history of mankind when it comes to making money. It's never been easier. You can make an extra $500 a month easily. Okay, that's $125 a week.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this specifically. Like we said, work with us, change your mindset a little bit, and now let's go down and let's go through some of the things that we've talked about. So there are websites that are out there called Fiverr. That's with 2 R's at the end. LinkedIn, many of you may be familiar with that one. It is a social media platform, but it is also for professionals, but they also have a place to where you can list skill sets and search for it. So, hey, maybe you're good at photography and that's a hobby of yours. You just enjoy doing photography. Maybe you like taking pictures of animals in like natural habitats, different things like that. You've never thought about monetizing that. That's an example to where you don't even actually have to really reskill that much. You just need to start thinking about that in terms of business. Start doing pet photos.
Yeah. Well, perfect example with that is Jenna Kutcher. Very popular blogger, marketer, great person. She started off in marketing. She started off, I'm pretty sure in marketing, but in corporate world. She was working in the corporate world and decided she didn't want to do that anymore. So she taught herself photography. Then from there, actually started a photography business, was able to quit her job eventually because she made enough money by doing this completely separate skill. Then while she was doing photography,
and again, you don't have to get to that point.
Correct. It's just, but this is an extreme example of what it could get to. While she was doing photography, then she reskilled again and said, well, you know what? I'm only one photographer. What if I learn how to do, online marketing, or what if I learn how to do, website design or something like that? And then she started off actually coaching people. And now she has a completely separate business that has nothing to do with photography.
Oh, I got one for you. There's a guy that I know, and he has he's a financial planner, does a lot of work with companies that are actually overseas, and they actually came to him because he had a really nice setup, and he was telling me that I could do this. Now I don't need the money right now. I'm fine, and I'm looking to do other things. But the reality is, I could. If I look around at the things I have around me, I have an amazing microphone. I have great audio software. And apparently I have, top 10 sexiest voice of all time, right up there with Morgan Freeman from what I've been told. So here it is, that vocal chocolate for you, ladies and gentlemen, coming at you. No. But
you've got to bring it down just a hair.
Just a tad.
Slow it down.
Oh, what is that? ASMR. Do you feel? There you go. Okay. So Tootsie Roll.
Sprinkle.
But the point is that I have equipment. This is something that I just do. I enjoy podcasting. This is something that a friend of mine does. But these companies saw that and they said, hey, would you mind recording a couple things for us? We'll pay you $1,000 to do it. Guess what? He was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. They just got him this video. He did a voiceover and they paid him $1,000. Now, listen, yeah, he already had the connections and the stuff, but the reality is you probably, when it comes to reskilling, you may have equipment around your house that you can use. You don't even have to go buy new stuff. Do you have a truck? Do you have a truck? Go drive around other people's neighborhoods, look for like junk in their yard and offer to get rid of their junk for free. Or tell them, hey, pay for my gas, pay me $50. Then you can take that stuff and sell it online.
Yeah.
Put it for $10 on the marketplace.
The idea is get resourceful. And that is what I always go back to with all my clients, all my friends. It's start looking around at your resources. Again, most of the time people fail in tasks they do or, taking a step because they think they can't. They think they lack the resources. It's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Now I'm repeating myself.
I love that.
But it's absolutely true. I mean, if you look around yourself, literally look around your desk, look around your home, look around your car, see what am I not tapping into? What skill could I potentially utilize that is sellable, right? That I can monetize.
It doesn't have to be something that has to be digital, but there is a lot of great digital stuff out there. Like I said, Fiverr, LinkedIn, Upwork. LinkedIn, I went on there the other day because I'm looking for a photographer. Well, guess what? I can't have somebody from Denmark or Bangladesh or even New York take pictures of me. I mean, technically I could, but that's going to be really freaking expensive to fly them over, right? So I'm on LinkedIn looking for people in my city that can do a candid photo shoot for some content that I'm trying to put out, because I don't want to have to go out and buy a camera, and it's hard for me to take good pictures of myself if it's set up or anything like that. So there you go, boom. And that's something that you could be doing right now. And then, like we said, the Fiverr, the Upwork, the LinkedIn's are the places that you can go to advertise your skills and be found.
I mean, and going back to the first point Stephen was talking about, look at if you have even a car. I mean, we are in one of the greatest times to make money doing anything. There's companies out there that will pay you to drive people around. I mean, you could be a Lyft driver, an Uber driver. You could pick up groceries for people, and that's not even a reskilling.
I don't know if that's $6 a gallon, if that's going to make sense for people. But
that's going to drive prices up too. But the whole point is, again, you don't have to develop a completely new drastic skill. It's utilize the resources, reskill, see what else you could be doing.
And have a goal. Like, hey, I'm trying to make an extra $125 a week. You can do that in an hour or two on a Saturday morning that you would normally just spend scanning Netflix and TikTok.
I'm going to jump in here again because I love that mention that you have to have a goal. I mean, and more so, you have to have a plan or a strategy. If you just have a goal and you say, I just want to make more money. No, get specific. Get very specific on what you want to do, what do you want to accomplish in order to have that plan and strategy. I'm going to give the example, and Mom, if you're listening, I love you, and I'm sorry to use this example, but this is all for for the sake of helping others. I had a conversation with my mom yesterday, and she calls me and says,
"That's nice. You still talk to your mom?"
Yeah, once a month or so. No, I talk to her regularly. I love the woman. She's fantastic.
Too. I love my mom. She just gave me a haircut. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. So my mother is a teacher, and I've been
There's
helping
another
her.
one. Do you cut your kids' hair? Cut other people's kids' hair. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, it is. No.
Ideas are just popping up everywhere.
So months ago, I was helping my mom with ideas on how she can help pay down her debt a whole lot faster. And part of it was reskilling. And I started coming up with ideas of things she could do. Very simple as a teacher. She could tutor on the side. She could do things like that. Well, yesterday, fast forward to yesterday, she calls me and says, hey, so I actually have my renewal coming up for my notary public or public notary. I can never get those two straight. Probably the same thing. Should I renew it? And I was like, hold on a second. You're a public notary? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So how much is the renewal? She's like, oh, it's about $100 and it's every 2 years. I was like, okay.
So $50 a year.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. And
that's 3 months of Netflix now. Okay.
Correct. I was like, so how often do you use it? She's like, well, I'd never do. I was like, so why did you get it? Like, well, because I wanted to add to my certifications and have something that I could do on the side. And well, I'm like, those are all great plans. That's fantastic, Mom. You want to do all these things? Great. What happened to it? I bought a nice little box for it and it was beautiful. I was like, okay, so what happened to it? Well, it was all fantastic. Okay, Mom, so what happened to it? This is where I get my,
long we know where it's coming from.
And she's like, well, I put it in a drawer and never saw it again. I was like, okay, So when you first came up with your idea that you wanted to become a public notary, and if I'm saying it backwards, I'm sorry. Notary public, I can never get it. Yeah. Point is, when you did that, notary. Did you come up with a plan of what you were going to do with it? She's like, well, no, I just said I could at some point. And we're like, exactly. Now you created a goal that's far out there. You need to get specific. But this is the perfect opportunity, because when we were talking about paying down your debt, could you feasibly, realistically, easily help people with 10 documents a month? Well, yeah. Okay. You do 10 documents a month and you charge $10 per document. How much time does that take from your day?
You could get that just off your Facebook group. Correct. Is the point. Like you just, I've got 1,500 quote unquote friends on Facebook that I don't get on Facebook anymore. But if I wanted to, I could get back on there. You could find a couple documents. Hey, does anybody need this? Yeah. It's stuff like that.
Not even in an outward marketing sales type thing. Just put it out on your Facebook page. Hey, guys, if you need a public notary, blah, 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 just let me know.
Now, let's swing to the other end of the spectrum here that we just kept discounting. What if you don't like what you do and you do want to potentially
absolutely
quit and do that someday? Yeah. So let's go to some further extreme examples. You know what? I'm gonna give a shout out to my cousin Eric. Okay, you want to talk about, this is probably one of the most extreme examples you could come up with of reskilling. Yeah. The guy was in construction management, okay? Got his degree in it, all this other stuff, was doing construction management. He reskilled to being a dentist. A freaking dentist, ladies and gentlemen. You can't just take a couple courses on the internet, last I checked, okay? This man went back to, again, had no prerequisites for this. The only commonalities between construction and dentistry is the fact that there are drills and they are vastly different in size. So,
I mean, you could say that's kind of an upskill. You just minimize the drill and get better at it.
I already told him, I said, listen, I'd come see you, but I really want a dentist with soft hands, kind of a thing.
Why is your dentist touching you?
He has to prep you.
Nope. Tootsie rolling back into that.
I know, but like that's an extreme example. But guess what? Now he has an incredibly high demand, high earning skill set, and he's happier. Absolutely. So let's find something in the middle here. Okay.
I mean, another quick example with the extreme, my own brother. My brother for years was in loss prevention. If you're familiar with that industry, fantastic. If you're not, I'm not going to go into it. It's a whole other world, but he worked for companies that help people or help the companies minimize loss, as in people stealing from the company. He did that for decades and decided he wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, I know what he does. I saw a video of that on online one time. He's the store employee that stands at the door, and when they run out, he tackles them.
He was at one point, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Except less tackling, more whatever. It's fine. But point is, he became a lawyer because he wanted a complete career change, and that's the thing. It's a completely different skill set,
right?
But he was able to tap into some of the skills that he had, which was, I was going to say hostage negotiation, but I mean, interviewing people and things like that. But
put down the toothbrush, sir.
Yeah. But I mean, now I'm going to go to another extreme, talking about the law aspect of it. The big aha moment for me with reskilling was actually a couple of years ago. And I was having a discussion because my wife was watching TV, watching the show called Southern Charm. I wish I was drinking Southern Comfort when she was watching that. Reality TV show. Some people love it. I hate it, but it's fine. And in the show, this guy was talking about he wanted to get a personal assistant. And I'm like, oh, great. Another entitled guy. He wants a personal assistant. He's just sitting around. Anytime I've watched you watching the show, he's sitting back doing nothing.
I'm really glad that this is actually going somewhere, because he had this on his screen and it was like TMZ, Southern Charms. And I was worried because he didn't say anything in the pre-show about this to me. And I was like,
where's it going with
this?
Okay,
are we going to have a coming out of the closet conversation here pretty soon that I don't know about? I was a little concerned.
Best month to do it in. Especially when the topic is pillow talk.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was a little concerned.
So Tootsie rolling back into this. Right, the reason I pulled it up is because I couldn't remember the guy's name, but it's Craig Conover. And he was a lawyer. And I asked my wife, I was like, well, what does he need a personal assistant for? Like, what does he do? And she's like, well, he's a lawyer. I'm like, okay, his personal assistant needs a lawyer. I guess I get it. She's like, well, no, it's for his pillow company. I was like, what do you mean his pillow company? He's a lawyer. And she's like, well, he went to law school, and she goes into this whole story for him. I don't know how accurate it was. But
is this where you started talking about making pillows a couple years ago?
Yes. There's a method to my madness.
I was wondering where that was so random.
Yeah. So, I mean, but the whole aspect was the guy decided that he didn't want to be a lawyer and he wanted to make pillows. And I tongue-in-cheek told my wife, oh yeah, you know what, honey, let me do that. Let me quit my career that I'm bringing in good money for the family, and let me start making pillows.
And providing people comfort, I guess there's something noble to
And then
that.
I started doing the math for her because, I like to do things in my head. I was like, all right, so, let me give you an example. So does he just do regular pillows? She's like, well, no, they're cushions and they're personalized. I was like, okay. And then I paused. I was like, hold on a second. Let me work this out. Because I was like, all right, if I learn how to do a pillow, and at the time I was building a library for the house, and there was a cushion that we were building in a nook. And I was like, okay, so we had looked for that cushion, and a custom cushion was $400 to make it custom. I was like, okay, so I learned how to do it myself. So I saved us $400, but in material, it was $80. So I was like, all right, so if I did 10 of those a month, I'm averaging $320 in profit after shipping. And also, let's say $300. I was like, holy crap, I could sell these cushions and make $3,200 a month.
Yeah.
By selling 10
Anybody
of them.
out there with a sewing machine? Some of you are out there running into your closets, bringing out your sewing machine right now.
But again,
making pillows.
Yeah,
go
making
to Etsy.
pillows. Very simple.
There's another website. If you actually have something you produce, go to Etsy.
If you have a Cricut,
sell it on there. I buy everything off of Etsy.
If you have those Cricut machines or Cricut, however you say it, I'm pretty sure it's Cricut, like that they cut vinyl.
Right.
You could literally just post it on Etsy and say, hey, I will cut out t-shirt designs or vinyl designs, $10 of like a design, and then you only make it when people send it to you, so you have very little overhead. And let's say you sell 5 a month. That's $50 extra for 10 minutes of work.
So listen, there's the point that we're making is, I mean, gosh, we just gave you everything from picking up trash to making freaking pillows to becoming a dentist. Like, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So look,
there's tons and tons of ideas.
Some low-hanging fruit, obviously. We wanted to give some very non-digital jobs because I think that when people think about reskilling, a lot of times they think like, oh, okay, learn computer coding, whatever that means. Like most people, when they say computer coding, nobody actually really knows what that means. So I wanted to break that down a little bit because yes, some of the most in-demand jobs and skills for 2022 are in tech. Okay. And guess what? Some of them are not that hard to learn. And guess what? Again, a lot of them can be learned completely free.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
And guess what? Again.
Again.
It's only going to get better because every business advances in technology. So these are all things that are going to be basics that are going to be great to learn anyways.
If you have kids that are in high school right now, like they should seriously be looking at some of these because they're not going to learn this stuff in college. They can learn this on YouTube. I mean, I'm going to get very specific here. So here's the list from Upwork.com of the top in-demand job skills, and they would know because people are coming to Upwork.com to find this. The first one is machine learning. Okay, normally you need to understand programming languages. You can't just learn machine learning, but you can learn Python, C++, R, Java, different things like that. And guess what? They're making $80 to $125 an hour. My wife's a physician assistant. She doesn't make that. No. So, that kind of gives you an idea. Again, you don't have to go to college for that. Actually, I don't even think the majority of colleges teach that. So next one is automation.
A lot of engineers are pissed off right now.
Yeah, I know, right? They're not happy about it.
That was my whole career. That's what I went to college for.
I know. Automation, another thing. Python pops up again. Data analytics skills. This is something that does not get talked about enough. A lot about statistics, critical thinking. You can earn anywhere from $40 to $100 an hour with data analytics skills. It is one of the top sought after jobs right now because the problem is there's too much data and they need data analysts to come in and decide what's trash and what's actually relevant. Mobile app skills. It has never been easier to build mobile applications. Sometimes there's not even coding involved. You can do that. Virtual reality skills, that's obviously coming up. Video production, got a camera, you can. I have been learning for my YouTube channel video editing, how to shoot video, how to look better on video, all these different things. I know some of you are like, Steven, look better on video, is that possible? I don't think so, but I was just checking to be sure. So
no, but
these are all, search engine optimization, product management. You can learn all these things for free. Yeah. Some of them, maybe you got to pay a little bit for a course to get some high quality stuff. Go to YouTube right now, type in Simply Learn. So SIMPLI Learn. They have 2 million subscribers. I'm just looking at this right now. This is YouTube. Everything's free. They'll teach you JavaScript, project management.
I want to repeat something.
This is crazy.
We've said multiple times, and this is again because repetition is key. Consistency creates credibility.
Yes.
Think about these skills as not it's going to replace my income. Because again, this is what holds people back, especially people that have, in my head, it works for me all the time. I'm like, oh, well, why would I learn this? I'm not going to become a computer programmer. Well, it's not about becoming a computer programmer. Take an hour, not even a day, an hour a week. Take an hour a week where you would normally sit down and do nothing and just passively take in, videos from Netflix or something like that, and actively watch a YouTube video that'll teach you the skill. 1 hour a week is 4 hours a month. In a matter of a year or 2 years, you're going to have a very good marketable skill that you could utilize to make money.
Take 10% of your work week. If you feel like you don't have time, maybe you've got kids, you're exhausted at the end of the day, whatever the case is. Look, we get it. I'm going to challenge you on that because you're probably still finding time for, social media and all these other things. So what do you do at lunch? What do you do at lunch every day in between your job? Can you take your laptop to work, get access to a computer, sit down in front of it, and watch a course for an hour a week and do practice stuff in between your lunch break?
Absolutely. One of the
do that for 6 weeks and see what that can do for you.
For the naysayers out there, the people that are saying, well, again, I don't have the time, I don't have the resources. Okay, yes, you do.
You
Steven's going to push back.
do.
I'm pushing back as well. 100%, not 80, not 90, 100% of the people that I work with regularly, that I talk to, that I've ever coached in any effect, pushed back initially saying, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources. And 100% of the time, they did. It's just a matter of you have to be proactive with your own schedule. You have to be proactive with your resources.
You have to get past your own bullshit is what you have to do.
Absolutely.
Like, let's be real here, okay? It's all of those things, but it really just comes down to, are you going to be lazy and sit on your ass, or are you going to do something and change it? Yeah. Okay? It's as simple as that.
Are you going to victimize and say, oh, woe is me, this all happens to me. Oh, the rich are getting richer, and it's all because they blah, 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 and they're entitled.
Put down the video games, put down your phone. I'm not even saying you have to quit social media. I'm saying you need to limit your time on it, okay?
Absolutely.
When you're doing stuff like this, put your phone in the other room and sit down on your laptop and do deep thinking, do deep work. That is a thing that is lost because now we have these little things that are trained or have trained us to pick them up constantly. Even, how many of you, I'm going to challenge you right now, how many of you can sit and watch an entire TV show without having your phone up too? Think about it. You're already doing entertainment, but you can't. You got to have another one here. And then maybe you got like an Apple Watch too. So maybe it's like screen and then screen and then screen in front of screen in front of screen. Like, it's ridiculous, but that's where we're at.
I take that personal, but again, I've got ADHD, so I need to have multiple things going on at once.
This is not a safe space. If you come to this podcast for a safe space, we just let you know right now. So,
but again, the point is,
we've harped on this a lot.
Proactive.
Get proactive.
If you don't schedule your life, someone's going to schedule it for you. If you don't set your boundaries, someone's going to set them for you.
They're spending billions of dollars to find more invasive ways through technology to suck all your time away from you.
Correct.
It is the attention economy. All right, so with the last couple minutes, we did want to get into this. We did want to talk a little bit because, unfortunately, it was a really big week in all the wrong ways. Or
the right ones if you've been prepping correctly.
Yeah. So the Fed changed their mind again.
What?
Shocking. And bumped us to 75 bips instead of 50.
But what's a bip?
A bip is, I was about to
basis points.
Basis points. Thank you.
75 bips is
interest rates.
0.75.
I was about to say beeps per second, and I don't know why that was the first thing that popped in my head. So
birds,
birds per second. 75 bumbles per second. I think that's a new metric for every time Biden gives a speech.
Oh, I'm thinking Bumble, like the app that never ever used before.
So the point is that they took it up more than what they originally said. Now, here's the problem. There's a lot of argument, and actually, I'm in the side of the aisle that's like, I actually like that move because
right now
there were some people that were even saying, shoot, take it up a point, because it's kind of like, look, do you want a shot to the stomach and a slow bleed out, or do you just want it to the head? And
So you want to kill the economy completely. I get it. Okay,
it's
good
like,
example.
look, it's painful. It's going to be painful one way or the other.
How about a better example that's not so, death? It's
It's what it feels like.
Do you want to, slowly start removing the ankle, the knee, and all that if you have a septic leg? Or do you want to just remove the leg at the hip and prevent all that?
It's like those Saw movies,
Yeah.
trapped in a basement somewhere with a video camera on you. Yeah. So the point is, the problem that we keep running into with the administration that is in charge of things right now is that the only thing worse than a bad plan is no plan. And that's true in anything, because at least with a bad plan, we could sit here and go, okay, it's not great, it doesn't work, but we have certainty. We know how to operate based off of what you are going to do.
Well, the classic, if failing to plan is planning to fail.
Absolutely.
You don't have a budget, you're going to fail. You don't have a plan, you're going to fail. You don't have an idea of where you're going, you're going nowhere.
And because they announce, hey, we're going to do 50 here and do this, and then okay, we're going to change. We're going to do 75. I get that things can change, but it's like when you're at the top of the food chain here and you're the one that's in leadership driving these things, you have to set it and stick with it because everybody is planning around.
So why is this good, Stephen?
So the reason it's good, hopefully, is that because we are entering more than likely a period of stagflation, hopefully by increasing it faster, it'll get us through it quicker.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my take on it is ultimately...
It's my tiny silver lining that we're hoping for.
And this is where I agree 100%. I think we're going to enter a period of stagflation as opposed to just the recession that we're in. And it's because these moves are all knee-jerk reactions to inflation. Inflation keeps going up.
Yes.
So basis points are...
Because they underestimated it and said it wasn't even real.
Correct. So now the way, like the monetary policy is dictating, okay, well, let's increase rates to slow down spending in order to decrease inflation. Fantastic if that's standalone. But we're doing it right at the brink of entering a massive recession. Mm-hmm. Well, how do we normally fix recessions? That's where the Fed says, well, let's lower rates in order to get out of a recession.
Problem is they're at zero and we can't.
Correct. So we can't lower rates. We're increasing rates. So we're going to increase the rate of recession, so to speak. So the economy is going to drastically slow down more while we're still in a point of inflation, because we're talking about a 3 to 6 month lag time here. So we're going to be in stagflation. We're looking for things to get worse before they get any better.
Absolutely.
And I mean, yes, that's why you see these fluctuations in the market. That's why you see the stock market rallied a little bit yesterday, but then now the information's like settled in. They're like, oh, well, honestly, this changes nothing. We're still screwed. Boosh, massive crash again today.
And you're just seeing it more and more, like people are starting to spend less. We're starting to see it in the earnings reports that we're getting from a lot of different retail places. You were seeing jobs being pulled off the market left and right. We are officially in a bear market. It's across the board. Again, I had somebody ask me a really good question. They said, why do people always say you don't know you're in a recession until you're in it? Well, the reason for that is because the technical definition is 2 negative quarters of GDP for the nation. Well, guess what? That takes a long time to calculate. We don't have this just automatic system that tells us. So I think it's like 2 to 3 months almost before we report on the previous quarter's GDP.
Correct.
So we already had 1 negative quarter. The next quarter ends this month at the end of June. And then we won't even have the results for June. I think it doesn't even come out till like the beginning of September. So that means we would have already been in a recession for 2 months before we get the official report to tell us what kind of already feels obvious.
Yeah. So again, we revert to the idea of, or the concept of this whole podcast. It's, where's the good in this? Where's the opportunity? Where can we make
money?
And we started backwards in this episode. We started with how you're going to make money first. And that's the reskilling. How do we prep for this recession, for this impending doom? Because again, it's only going to get worse before it gets better. The positive of this is, in my personal opinion, and I am by no means an economic expert, we kind of needed this. We needed this correction because we had so many quarters of, the stocks only go up, that you need a correction. It's a cycle. You need it to come back down. I think they kind of overdid it and overshot it, and now we're going to be in a much deeper recession than they were expecting. But in the long term, be patient. That's the number one thing I can tell you is be patient. Stop. Don't let emotions guide you. Don't be fearful. Just take a deep breath. Don't look at your stock portfolio if you're lucky enough to have one. Don't look at your investments. Just breathe, spend the money that you need to spend, cut down debt as much as you can of that high interest the high interest debt. Pay that down and keep living your life. And I mean, we're going to get back into that upward swing in 24 to 36 months.
And how many of us had to sit through annoying Thanksgivings listening to your cousin Chad talk about how much money he made, see the new car that he bought with all his crypto gains, and talk about how everything's going to the moon and he's 100% leveraged in, crap coin. It's like we needed Chad to shut up. So it's almost worth it just to not have to hear him talk anymore.
My cousin Chad actually was 200% leveraged, which I'm not even joking. Well, I don't have a cousin Chad, but I know of an individual that
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Is 200% leveraged in crypto. I mean, and again, I'm investing in crypto. I believe in it, but this is the time to test your...
stupid.
Correct. I mean, I wouldn't leverage my mortgage. All stuff to be 200% leveraged. That means I'm well beyond bankrupt if I did that.
I know.
But I think right now it's going to be the time to separate the long-term holders from the paper hands. The people, like, this is going to show your true colors, your true character. Because it's going to say, okay, do you truly believe in the technology? And this goes not just for crypto. It goes for all the stocks and investments you believe in. This is why, again, we go back to Warren Buffett. His philosophy is invest in companies you believe in long term.
Absolutely.
So, yes, they will recover, but this is going to show us the people that were just investing for the sake of money.
And if it makes everybody feel better, guess what? Crypto has done this 4-year cycle. And this was the 4th year. This is extremely predictable when you zoom out and look at this over the long term. It's doing exactly what it's always done. Yeah. So this actually isn't shocking to those of us that have been around than 6 months.
Honestly, it's not even that bad. If we look at how far...
Yeah, it's actually been worse.
You look at Bitcoin specifically. Bitcoin, every time it's had a massive drop correction in its 4-year cycle, it's had a 80 to 90% drop.
Yeah.
We're still at 69%.
We're still at 60 something. Yeah. Now, we do have to talk about Celsius real quick, and we'll end the episode on this.
Not the temperature.
Not the temperature. I know a lot of us Americans, a lot of you Americans are sitting here going, wait, don't you mean Fahrenheit, Stephen? We don't do Celsius here. No. Celsius is a company, the Celsius Network specifically. It still is, but... They had a token that went into a complete free fall with an announcement that they made. And Celsius is, a lot of people are using the exchange to buy crypto, do different things. And this is I'll read the actual announcement. They said Celsius is pausing all withdrawals, swap, and transfers between accounts, meaning if you had money at Celsius, it was frozen. Acting in the interest of our community is our top priority. Our operations continue, and we will continue to share information with the community. That feels like extreme redundancy there. A lot of opportunity in community. But the point is, basically what happened is that with the price of things crashing, they, like many other companies we're starting to see, were backing themselves in an extremely leveraged position. And they were in some really high-risk stuff themselves. So it's like when you're already a high-risk company and your financial infrastructure is in more high leverage stuff, you're just asking for astronomical disasters if anything goes remotely wrong. And that's what happened. So they couldn't let people cash out their money when they wanted to sell when things were going bad because they didn't have the ability to pay it out.
Correct. I mean, and this is, again, we kind of hinted at this when we started seeing the crash with TerraCoin and all these things, and it's the potential run on the banks. I mean, right now, our banks are protected. They're FDIC insured. They have all these things because back in the Great Depression, there was a run on the banks. People freaked out. They needed their assets. They needed their money.
Yep.
And they ran in and started pulling everything out, and the banks were over leveraged and didn't actually have the physical cash.
They couldn't actually give you your $100 bill.
Now we're starting to see that in crypto. We're starting to see in these platforms that their sole purpose is to make money by loaning out other people's cryptos. So people that were holding their Bitcoin.
I am running into the virtual Celsius bank. I am saying, give me my Bitcoin back. And they're saying, we don't actually have it.
Correct. Because we lent it to 50 other people.
Exactly.
And that's how we were paying you high interest. Well, now we don't have it, and they had to freeze everything until they could figure out how to get people their coins back.
Yeah, and in the short term, this is bad for crypto, but in the long term, I honestly think this is good because listen, this is a new technology group. There does need to be a level of smart regulation around this. It absolutely does. There's actually some bipartisan bills that are listening to the community that are coming out.
This is what happened with the banks because of the situation in the Great Depression is why we got good regulation and good insurance for people's money in banks.
Yes.
So we got better systems. I'm not saying our bank system is not flawed because it's massively flawed, but it helped. And now the banks that, there were thousands of banks before, the ones that are still around are more trusted. So that's what's happening now, in my opinion, with these crypto brokerages.
One of two things will happen. Crypto will either completely fall apart and go away, which I just can't imagine happening because there's too many benefits to the technology when we get to adopt it, or governments will force regulation in order to protect investors, which is a good thing. Now, look, could they take it too far? Yes, but that's where the crypto community has some very strong players, and I am confident that they will just not let the government get these idiots in here that didn't even, can you imagine? I just remember watching that Mark Zuckerberg, question and answering, and you just have this dude who literally is older than dirt. They checked the dirt was younger. And he's sitting there asking Mark Zuckerberg, so if Facebook's free, how do you make money? And Zuckerberg's face is just like in shock. He's like,
well, how could you tell? He has the same facial expression.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's the alien thing. Yeah. So he just sits there and he's like, sir, we sell ads. And the guy, I think he even asked a follow-up question. He's like, and they pay you on there to sell ads? And it's like, oh my gosh, like these cannot be the people that are writing the rules for the upcoming new world that we have. This guy's going to be dead in about 5 minutes. So it's like, we just can't have that. We need people in the industries working with lawmakers to protect investors because it's not good for it to be the wild, wild west. And it's not good for it to be completely overly regulated by people who don't have a clue what's going on.
Correct.
And I do have faith that we will be able to find a common ground because guess what? There's something business people and politicians have in common, and that's they like to make money.
And again, for the naysayers out there that are like, well, this is the crypto winter. Yes, crypto's gone down, but it's never been through a recession. It's never done well. Okay, think about the smart money. We're all idiots out there. Okay, I am a dumbish investor, but the smart money is the big hedge funds, the big banks. They're the ones that manipulate the market, allegedly. They do. But they are all actively currently investing in these markets in cryptocurrency. There was just a release this last week that I think it was BlackRock, Citadel, all the evils of this world are getting together with I think JP Morgan and Fidelity to create a crypto exchange, an actual brokerage.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, if this was truly the end of the world, if this is the crypto winter where all crypto is getting wiped out, why would these billion and trillion dollar banks be actively and currently investing?
Yeah, they wouldn't be. Yeah. So it's as simple as that. Do what the big guys do. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk start selling their stock off. You might want to as well. Yeah. Just saying.
Follow the money.
All right, guys. Well, listen, it's been a fun time. Thanks for hanging in there with us. And
this was a deep discussion. We appreciate you sticking to the end if you've made it to the end. And
if you know somebody who is in a tight spot looking to reskill, please share this episode with them. And if you just like the podcast in general, tell some people about it.
Absolutely. Tell all your friends, all your family, and their puppies too.
We appreciate y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Woo! The longest podcast by far.